So hello, everybody, and welcome to Second Sunday Readings. My name is Sean Killingsworth, and I'm the curator and host of this series. I'm so glad you can be here today for some really amazing poetry. Today's featured poets are Ashley Kunsa and Mab Jones. I'm deeply grateful to these two fine poets for sharing their work with us, and I've really been looking forward to this reading. With no further ado, our first poet up to the mic is Ashley Kunsa. She's a poet and writer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, currently living in Montana. Her prose has been published in the Los Angeles Review, Forward Literary Magazine, Sycamore Review, and the Writer Magazine. And her poetry is forthcoming from Massachusetts Review, Bennington Review, Radar Poetry, and Cream City Review, among other journals. Currently, she is an assistant professor of creative writing at Rocky Mountain College in Billings, Montana, where she lives with her husband and two, and I can tell you for a fact that I know this, adorable children. You can find her online at ashleykunsa.com. So Ashley, you are up and you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. And Sean, thank you for inviting me to be here. It's really an honor. And I'm excited to be here alongside Mab, reading poetry today. And I just want to say that I think that it's really awesome that we're able to do this over Zoom, people from all over. I know that, some people are coming in from, at least people that I've invited from not where I'm located. And so I really appreciate that. And, it's really cool because like Sean said, I'm in Montana and she's over there in California, which is one of my favorite places to write poetry, I will say. That's where we met. So I'm going to read a handful of poems today. I think all but one are from the manuscript that I'm currently putting together. I'm in the final stages, kind of just ordering things, doing last minute revisions, that sort of stuff. So I'm just going to start with a poem that I wrote near the beginning of the pandemic, when we were sort of coming out of lockdown, I think, and trying to figure out, what the world was looking like. I think we're still trying to figure that out, but it was definitely written in a very specific sort of mood. It's called Ask Me About Things There Are No Answers For. When I was a girl, my mother left my father for 6 whole hours. How free we felt that afternoon, sipping Roy Rogers' waterfront at the Grand Concourse, like passengers of some magnificent ship that had given up its captain. Tides go out, predictable, but still they leave a mess on the way back in. I can't stop collecting men like bad habits, loving them a little, then being through with them. I figure I'll keep on like this till time or something else ruins my face. I never get over a thing. I just get on with it. My birthday comes while we're hemmed up in our houses, and my friends decorate their Subarus and drive by in a pitiful, sweet parade. I don't cry, but I want to. It's 5 days before May, and there are no buds on the trees. This is such a small thing. Lying in the grass, I feign answers to what there are no answers for. Yawning, or the bottom of the ocean, or children born without limbs. I can't help guessing, even though I'm wrong. A white freshman writes a black banger who drops every other T, and I climb inside a new book trying to avoid the conversation we've got to have in class tomorrow. But 3 poems in a row end without periods. No, 4. And I get so lonely, I wake the baby just so I can sit in the harsh light of her wailing and feel its warmth fill up the silent space that has opened inside my chest. This isn't a true story, but it could be. My mother never left him, but she never listened to a word he said either. It's not sickness if you don't desire a cure. This next poem is the one that is not part of this current manuscript I'm putting together. Maybe it'll be part of the next thing, I don't know. It's called Offline. Somewhere I am still 15. My wrist woven in friendship, baby fat unthieved from my cheeks. Nothing has been broken yet or can be. The path to the forgotten farmhouse in the woods becomes a path only because we make it so. our Reeboks careless on the crisp grass, our laughter announcing us to man and beast alike. T and C up ahead, their hair blonde and long down backs not yet marked by summer. Distracted, I lag. The strap of my mother's 35mm carving a ravine into tender shoulder flesh. Just over the sunken threshold, water-choked mattresses, dishes clotted with some not so distant dinner's remains, 6 matching yellow pages, vintage 1969. Those were the best days of our lives. When sound spills out from somewhere beyond the scene, only C lifts her head in the direction of the shot, and only for an instant. This is not the story where we are eaten. We do not barely escape with our lives. Nothing is lost but hours under the tree's ignorant canopy, nothing taken but the late afternoon light unspooled across floorboards, a photo for a school assignment. We understand threat, but not enough to feel threatened. These are the Pennsylvania suburbs, and the year is 1997. America is only just coming online. So this next poem is called The New Manifest Destiny. Until I was 35, we won't mention how old I am now, but until I was 35, I lived in and around Pittsburgh. And for those of you who are familiar with Pittsburgh has about 250,000 people who are familiar with like small, big city mentality, like Pittsburgh, St. Louis, there can be this kind of mentality, especially in the older generation. Like, why do you need anything beyond this city? There's everything you could ever possibly need here. Why would you ever go elsewhere? But I finished my PhD and there were no jobs. So my family and I packed up and we moved to Montana. So this poem deals with our move west and also the fraught legacy of the American West. So it's called The New Manifest Destiny. I can't talk about the West without talking about betrayal, about a place I had to come but didn't belong and knew it. Believing I had spent all my years in grief's anteroom, I packed my car with what doesn't make a life but describes it. The bear carried from childhood, a few dozen photographs, the same off-key smile that passed unloved from generation to generation, across an ocean, over a river, back again, and journeyed alone, battling my mother in the full regalia of her misunderstanding, or refusal to understand, entwined like a lover with the certainty of her convictions. But the place I arrived was more question than answer, the way a graveyard in the right light might be imagined a garden. The lilies and larkspur in rows, rising from what was to what becomes, a mistake anyone could make, and many do, and not without knowing better. Still, there were times I was certain apologies must sleep in this soil, though to find them, you'd have to claw past the bones of arrows and horses, learn to unlace roots that had spent a lifetime taking hold. You'd have to remember what you had so cultivated forgetting. Tonight, Mother, at the edge of this familiar wilderness, you can no more understand me than I can explain myself. Tonight, I'm wandering farther from home than I've dared before when I ask about the limits of love and the limits love places on the places our heart can beat. I'm writing to you when I wonder about promises, the ones we make and the ones that make us, and what takes a girl 35 years to dig out from her own heart like coal from the rotted belly of a once green hillside. Her hands so black she mistakes them for night. No, for guilt, for something she thought she drove away from years ago. Okay, this next piece is called The Year of Love. I want to bear an exquisite name, something that sparkles. I want to suck the life from figs newly shucked from their branches. Where do figs even grow? I've never seen one outside of the Newton. Outside of Newtown, the tragedies I most remember boast a date or a woman's name. Speaking of tragic women, Juliet was only 13, barely old enough for Facebook. So let's consider how we're defining tragedy. After 13 years, my friend got herpes from her husband. Then she found out about the baby. All my life, I believe my mother chose the most common girl's name of 1982, but Ashley was only second and only in Louisiana, which brings us back to Katrina and makes me think of Blanche Dubois. My brain's irreverent that way, always groping after connections, not unlike my body, touching things, testing the wire, testing to see if it sparks, if the fingers burn. All those years spent with my hands in my lap, I wasn't crocheting anything. I was only tearing my cuticles. Like the pictures I unsheathed from Glamour and Redbook. Where did those go? Rose bushes wild as summer, diamonds the size of a fig. Mine's a carat and a half, sealed away in the top drawer. Zelda, maybe, or Guinevere. Cassandra, Evita, Salome. Though their sorrows outnumber the stars. This next one is called Poem Beginning with a Confused Notion of Pattern. And the manuscript that I'm working on has a bunch of poems that begin with title, or that have titles that begin like this poem beginning with, and they take all kinds of different forms. And so this one is playing around with the idea of pattern. So I mourned the cat more. This made me wonder things like how much of being in love was a symptom of boredom or coin flippage, of seeing a thing through to its wrongful conclusion. No quitters here. It seemed every time I made up my mind to call him, a new disaster sparked, like the sprained ankle, like 3 coworkers fired in 6 hours. This time it was the cat. I went out into the snow, by this point so melted it was like sitting in snow stew, thinking the cold might serve as astringent. Not everything has to be sad, I might have told him if I had called. Not everything has to be sad, though lots of things are, and I might have offered examples. For one, snow melting. For two, how it costs more than a penny to manufacture a penny. Soon, the lanterns lit, which is a dramatized way of saying streetlights, because here they resemble old-style lanterns and mean to give you the sense of something grand, when all that's really going on is evening, which happens everywhere and all the time. Eventually, I quit the outside and went on sitting in the dark on the bathroom floor with the space heater thawing my jeans at a glacial pace. Look, this is not about magical thinking. I stopped holding my breath when they put the neighbor on a ventilator. Christmas. We find connections where we look for them, and I have a predilection for patterns, however invented. They're always invented by someone. On the table at the vet's office, still swathed in the rainbow beach towel, she barely looked any different in the moments after, which is to say, still alive and tired of it. Her eyes never closed. Eventually the phone rings. The numbers accumulate into numbers that accumulate into voicemail. The heater lurches off, changes its mind. My ass is still wet, still cold. This is less about love than concession. At least I think so, though I've been wrong before. January, February, March, and the lights are still burning when the sun fights its way into dawn. Okay, 2 more. This one was prompted by an event that took place in California. As I said, one of my favorite places to write poems. I did a residency a couple of summers ago at Dorland Mountain Arts Colony in Temecula, which I can't recommend highly enough if you guys have not had the opportunity to go there. And so the thing that starts this poem actually happened. And then, it stayed with me, and months later, I couldn't get it out of my head. So this is called It's Never Just a Snake. In California, in a dumpster, a rattler lay, half coiled atop a grease-soaked pizza box, half cloaked by yesterday's news. It was no friend of mine, the snake, though, to tell the truth, in such repose, no enemy either. Eyes glued to that prelapsarian skin, I tucked my bag of trash into the farthest corner and took the hill to the cottage. It felt good to put my shoulder into a thing, to work my wrist against the char of a T-bone gone wrong, the just budding fur of soap scum. 3 hours I spent sloughing my existence from that place, then shucked a second bag into the dump, where the creature's unmoved body told what 3 weeks had made clear enough. There is nowhere you can go and be hidden from yourself. Not the far side of a bottle, 4,000 miles from home, not a new man's bed. Inside, the window unit argued its case against midday. I tugged the sheets into an elegant heap on the floor, revealing a metallic flurry. Bangles cast aside during another colossal heat. I left them. Gold has never suited me. The snake sheds its skin only to become once and forever the snake. Or it lies there in the ostentation of the West Coast noon, unbecoming. And the last poem, I'm going to end with a love poem. The last poem is called coruscant, which is this kind of odd word that I stumbled upon somewhere and I love. It means giving off flashes of light, for those of you who aren't familiar. It's like, but it's also, my husband alerted me, a planet in Star Wars. So for what that's worth, I had already titled the poem before I knew that. So I guess I should look that up with regard to Star Wars. I don't know. Coruscant. Nothing migrated south that year. Neither jay, nor crow, nor whirlwind of starling. A sky so smothered by blankness, it almost burned the day away. Then again, how could you prove it? And you, in all your particularity, I would have had you this way or any other, which is to say, nothing, not really. 1,000 times I've measured the horizon without you. 1,000 times I've walked back answers mouthed against your skin in the unruly blackness of January's late stage afternoons. I don't say starving. I don't say love a little longer. I don't hold the flame to the flat of my hand to watch a cup of pain light the lifeline electric. Sometimes we make a beautiful thing just to crush it. Sometimes we make a beautiful thing just because we can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ashley, so much. I haven't heard Ashley's voice in a couple of years, and it's so lovely to hear it again. Gosh, I love also direct address poems because they have that conversational quality that I think, you know, some older kind of more formal poems just don't have, and it feels so much more intimate that way. So lovely. Thank you so much. Our next poet is joining us from across the ocean. She's in Wales, and it's the middle of the night, so I hope everybody gives Mab Jones a little extra love and appreciation. Mab Jones has read her work all across the UK, in the US, France, Ireland, and Japan. She's the author of 3 poetry collections and 3 pamphlets, which in the US are called chapbooks, and the winner of various accolades, including a John Tripp Spoken Poetry Award, the Word Factory Neil Gaiman Short Story Competition, a Royal Society of Literature Award, the Aurora Poetry Prize, the Rabbit Heart Poetry Film Festival Prize, and the Jeff Stevens Memorial Poetry Prize. She is presented on BBC Radio 4, written for the New York Times, teaches at Cardiff University, where my mother went for undergrad, and is resident writer in Cardiff Wetlands. You can find her at mabjones.com. So without any further ado, Mab, can you please unmute yourself and take it away?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's not too late here. It's 11 p.m. So it's 11:20 now. It's not too bad. It's British summertime, so it's not as late as it could be. I'm in Cardiff. I'm not far from Barry, which is where you said your family were from. Is it Shan or Sean? Because it would be Shan here.
Yeah, Sean.
Sean.
It's
okay.
mangled and mispronounced almost every day of my life here.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with a poem which is about Barry Island, which is it's like this sort of like an amusement park. and there's a beach, and lots of families go there. And there's a really famous poem by a Welsh poet called Idris Davis, and it's called Let's Go to Barry Island, Maggie Fach. And Fach is from the Welsh word bach, meaning small, but I'm not going to start speaking Welsh or anything. I'm just referencing the poem because it's got Maggie in it. So I'll read this poem, which is called Barry Island. I'm riding the back of a banshee to Barry, the screaming, buckling body of the train, pramful and bustling, passing the eyes of houses, the arms of roads, weaving under wiring, the pylons standing guard. It's summer and Maggie Fach will be there with all her holiday children, under sun hat, over sandclot, fielding armfuls of ice cream into all those unfathered mouths. The sea will marathon closer, bringing broken glass and shells. The seagulls will dare a dive when the littlest plops her cone. The pingu bins are waiting and the donuts are mouthing their O's. I'm on my way on this ghost train, in sunglasses, a spectre. Single woman amidst the babies, non-toddlered, not belonging. As the sandcastles rise, I'll finish this poem, the hissing sea for a friend. Yeah, so it's about being a single one, single and without children, and all the families on the train were alongside me when I went to Barry Island that day. I've got quite a lot of poems about places in Wales, so I'm going to read another one of those. This is another beach. We've got the coast on three sides, as you all know, Sian, and we've got a lot of beaches, and they are beautiful, so please visit Wales when you can. This is a famous beach called Pendine, and the reason why it's well known is not that it's lovely, it is, but basically in, I think, the 1910s or 1920s, the world land speed record was broken there because it's a really long stretch of beach. So men would go and they would attempt to do that, and it happened. So this is a poem kind of about that. It's called Pendine. A man tells another man of a different man who once broke the world's land speed record here. But this is also where Molly and Sally took their dog child for a walk, back when their love was new, but an old rule made it outlaw. Tell me, which goes faster, the forward hurl of civilization or Cupid's haphazard arrow? Tell me, which is greater, the passion of man's competition with man, or that of two women's embrace. So I'll move on to my next poem. It's another kind of response to a famous writer, and I think the reason for that is I just it's nice to have a conversation between, you know, poets living and poets dead, but also I think there's something in me that wants to tell those old guy poets that they're a bit wrong. They can't answer back, of course. Get a sort of pleasure out of writing something that they can't do anything about, they can't respond to. And the poet in this case is Seamus Heaney, famous Irish poet. And it's a particular poem of his called Strange Fruit, which is about, he wrote like a series of bog-based poems, and it was about a bog girl. And I just come at it from a slightly different perspective. I'm a resident writer in Cardiff Wetlands, so I've been writing a lot of bog-based poems myself. But this is in the voice of that girl, because he didn't really give her a voice, and I wanted to. So this is the response. It's called Luscious Carcass. Yes, I was beheaded, but do not weep for me, unless your tears are offered as a gift. Some salt to salve my wound, perhaps, a little water to soothe my withered lips. I'll take these, but not that charity of woe which has you cry me diamonds, piteous and false. They form a pendant, start to sew a rosary which tightens like a noose, as if you want to throttle history. In fact, I was conceded to the gods with a contented heart. My will was free. I gave my salty flesh, my quenching blood of my own accord. My luscious carcass, sowing our future, blooming into harvest. And that is it is a sonnet as well on the page. This poem that I'll read next is one I think I've only read it out once. It's not in any books yet. It's called Catman and Batwoman. And yeah, I just sort of wondered what it would be like if it was that rather than Catwoman and Batman anyway. This is the poem. Catman's clever, cuts the dawn rug with feral night teeth, leaps from rooftop to rooftop, seeking and strutting, stopping every moonshadow or so to lick whisker and listen. Batwoman's always had issues. Batwoman's bats and her belfry lonely, echoing strangeness and silence. No billionaire, by day she taps at a laptop, making Morse code with cold finger ends. Catman's confident, Tom by day, playing the field, its edges wet with his musk. Batwoman's not sure she's a superhero. Catman owns a catamaran. Batwoman wears a cardigan. Catman, I think, is the billionaire. Batwoman rents a cheap flat. Catman can't help but win the affection of a crowd. Batwoman suffers from anxiety issues, is afraid of the dark, won't walk out alone. Catman rides a motorbike like it's a whore. Batwoman is an admin assistant. The wind hisses at her window frame and she is paid by the hour. Can women be heroes anyway? Catman capers whilst Batwoman worms in her temp job. Batwoman is paid by the hour. Catman's teeth gleam expensively. I just was having a bit of fun with that poem. Can that be a reason for writing a poem? I find that it often is. The next one, I mean, the character of Batwoman probably is me. So I'm going to read another poem, which is also me. I am the woman who also was on the train to Barry Island, and here she is again. This time she's in IKEA, and it's a similar sort of vibe. She's seeing the families. And this is her response, or my response. So this poem is called IKEA Communion. I have a pen and I can go anywhere. And even if I forget my pen, here there are always pencils. And even though I am just one person, I have a family card, which gives me free tea. And so I sit amongst the families, eating meatballs, blobs of happy coloured sauce dribbling down toddlers' chins. Together we sit. It is communal in a way. And after we wander, me alone in joggers, hoodie, meandering the fake homes, touching the corners of cushions, amongst the mums in their blouses and dresses, the dads in tees and jeans, and all the children, from little yowling babies to moping teens. Here we are together, passing the Billy bookcase, the scarlet lamp, which shines on them and I alike. And after we eat our hot dogs, the cheap buns squishing in our fingers, the mustard warming our mouths. I've paid my 50 pence, same as you, my few-hour family. And in this day, this IKEA age, it is a communion of sorts. So I will move on to another poem that I've not read this one out at all. Thought I'd give it a go. It hasn't got a title yet. I've got a book coming out this summer, which was delayed from before the lockdown, and might see if I can squash it in there. But at the moment, it's bookless and titleless, and I'm not even sure what it's about. It's kind of about writing, I think. Just quite interested in poems where maybe I'm not sure what they are, you know, like strange children, maybe. I made them, but I'm not responsible for them in a way. So this is this titleless poem. My thoughts, elegant as embryos, smoosh onto the page. Like your dark skin, they appeal. Like my dark side, they repel. Like darkness itself, they hold the static itch of absence, the ruby allure of promise. More and more, poems remind me of the skeletons of pterodactyls splayed inside a rock face. We write between tectonic lines, evoking ancient yet always being born. Effervescent fetuses do the hokey cokey, bungee out of my pen end. Lively and lurid as bones, they sing a bloody alphabet, glyphs we share as if our children, their dark eyes mirroring light. So I don't know what you think about that one. I sort of like it because sometimes I just don't, I do marketing as a day job, and I don't want poetry to be marketing. I found out that there was this kind of lineage of troubadours, and what they did is they tried to make incomprehensible things and things that broke all the rules. And I'm quite intrigued by that. Maybe I'm just rebellious, and this is where I put it into my poetry. This next poem actually is the opposite of that. It's really clear and it's simple, and it's calling a spade, and I like doing that too sometimes. It was the Platinum Jubilee in the UK recently, so it was the Queen's whatever anniversary that is. I don't really care. Anyway, sorry. This is my response to the Jubilee. It's called Jubilee. And I wrote it on the day of the Jubilee itself whilst I was walking in Wales. And it goes like this. My sceptre is of foxgloves, a peeling spear of bells, purple as a jewel. My flag is a silver sinew of cloud, flexing against the blue. My crown is a wreath of late spring wind, and my cloak is bright, clear sunlight. My orb is the great grand earth itself, sweet and round as an apple. A white tree salutes, stretching from its sleeve of mud. A V of geese fly past, landing in cake slice formation. The bees thrum their anthem, nectar, tipsy and gold. When raindrops come, they're as confetti, kissed to the branches like bunting. Every tree is wearing its best green dress. Every flower is trooping the colour. All elements existing here in an infinite jubilee. So I think I'll just do one more, and it is a poem. It's kind of a place poem, and it's about a really specific site called, or it's based at a site called Scandervale, which is a Hindu temple, which is just outside of Carmarthen in South Wales. And they've got a temple elephant called Valley. And this is a poem I wrote inspired by her. It's called Valley Takes a Bath. I step through a hatch of shadow and we're nose to trunk, my white eye drawn up to that one which is liquid as amber, brown as a coconut, tufted lashes thick as the brush the monk uses to soap the creature clean. Valley is 2 years younger than I am, but her wrinkles are rivulets to let the water run, to hold the mud her dermis needs to breathe. She was born as my hands, my face will become, lined and creased, parchment pressed into shape around the cosmic dust of bones. I watch as she dips the soft lips of her trunk into the metal bowl and blasts her body with suds. Brother bathes her twice a week, he says, sloughing the flesh from her hulk so it can replenish. The fresh skin, a regeneration which, in this land, requires man's hand in the place of palms. My own show paths fanning into futures I won't know, as the frayed map edge of her ears gently furl, the mala beads of her forehead shine. Her strength and her tenderness are as everyday and as unstoppable as time, as humble and as powerful as a birth. She is a fire breath of life wrapped in a dinosaur form, natal yet ancient, primordial, but still in the hands of the priest, as during our end, that great cleansing, we all are.
Wow, fantastic. What a wonderful reading. I feel so lucky to have able to reach across the world and across the country and get such fabulous poets. I'm grateful to both of you for bringing such powerful work to Second Sunday Readings.
Thank you so much for having me. I didn't really, sorry, I felt quite nervous because I haven't done that many readings in recent years. And thank you so much for just being so warm. And you too, Ashley. Yeah, and thank you for letting me be here. It was lovely.
Well, I hope you'll come back again sometime. Thank you everyone for coming. The recording of this reading should be up on our YouTube channel in the next few days, I think. Although Glenn is, he's video editing from vacation, so let's give him a couple of extra days to enjoy himself. But keep your eyes peeled, and the next Second Sunday reading will be Sunday, August 11th. And I hope to see all of you then. So have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.